Well, if you're trading the markets, you're dealing with uncertainty every day. There's never an absolute trade that you're confident in. And there are ways to deal with that. And our guest today is Rande Howell. He's a trading psychologist. He's going to talk to us about that. Rande, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Well, there's always uncertainty in the markets, of course. We're never totally sure a trade's going to work out before we get into it. What's the difference between that and actually having a real fear and that holding us back from success?
Well, once you recognize that uncertainty is the rule, if you see yourself as a surfer on an ocean, on a wave, the wave could care less if you're there or not. And it's really uncertain until you develop the skills, the edges, to be able to surf it properly. Same thing applies in trading, is that uncertainty is the rule. However, if you're walking in and triggered to fear, rather than, the risk of uncertainty, what happens is suddenly you start thinking fearfully. You start finding fearful solutions. You start hesitating, or you might do impulse trading to get out of the trade. And the uncertainty, you need a different emotional state. You need to be able to build and develop impartiality, a sense of courage, and a sense of powerful discipline. All that lives within you, and you can grow it so that that dominates the thoughts in the mind.
It seems that the best traders I've talked with are able to make really good trading decisions even when there's a lot of uncertainty and they're not exactly sure what the outcome will be. What's the difference for them? What have they done to be able to do that?
Well, it may be they've been phenomenally lucky and born into families where learning how to deal with uncertainty was encouraged. Most of us do not grow up in families that deal with uncertainty well. We end up trying to be perfect. We're trying to avoid mistakes. So what happens is a really good trader moves beyond focusing on loss, focusing on making mistakes. He's looking at probabilities and is into curiosity. And he's developed the kind of what I call the impartiality to evaluate. But he's also developed the instinctual ability to be able to intuitively take his hunches to a different level because he's not accessing the intuition from something like fear. He's doing it from a different part of himself. And that is what emotional regulation and the development of what I call the heroes within the self can actually bring forth.
All right, so if I haven't grown up in that environment where I'm used to dealing with the uncertainty, is there a way I can kind of develop that?
Oh, absolutely. We're all born with these instinctual potentialities. It's learning to develop the courage to be able to confront what I would call our psychological demons and to disperse them and to replace those beliefs with much more powerful beliefs that whatever your beliefs are, that's what you're going to find. And if you're going to look at an ocean, like if I were to get on a wave in Hawaii, I would end up in fear. Okay? Yet I've seen 14-year-old boys on 50-foot waves having a joyride.
Does that mean necessarily just getting in there and actually doing it, actually trading and working through that?
Well, there's a wonderful thing about trading is that most of us spend a lifetime avoiding our psychological demons. In trading, they're going to stalk you. They're going to find you. And trading offers the incredible environment of getting in tune with yourself, developing yourself psychologically so that you're a better human being in a lot of domains, including trading. But you have to understand, trading is going to provide a platform that's going to give you a scalpel to look at your psyche, and you're going to have to reorganize it to be a really good trader.
Well, as traders, we all want to achieve as much success as we can, but at some point you may reach a plateau or you can't figure out how to achieve that next level in your trading. Our guest today is Rande Howell. He's a trading psychologist. He's here to talk to us about that. Rande, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Well, what is a trader to do if you've reached a plateau and you can't seem to get above a certain point in your trading success?
Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to start looking at your belief structure, because ultimately what trades is your beliefs, not the ones that you want to have, but the ones that are deep inside. And you begin to say, what is it that's actually producing this phenomenon of my trading, particularly with fear?
And so if I'm a good trader, and I know I have good strategies, but I'm hesitating maybe to execute trades, or I can't seem to achieve the dollar amount of gold that I want, how do I get to that next level? How do I jump to the next level?
You come to a moment where you begin to understand the fear that drives it. Your neurobiology is all about fear. It's produced a tremendous species, us, but also what it does is it limits us. And until you recognize that the brain cannot tell the difference between fear and uncertainty, you begin to click what happens when you're trading. When you're trading, you hit uncertainty, your brain reads fear. and all of a sudden it locks you into a particular perceptual map, a way of viewing the world. that locks you into a perceptual map and a way of trading, and you're stuck and you crash.
All right, so if I can recognize that that's happening, are there exercises I can do or mental exercises that can get me past that?
Oh, absolutely. You know, in any really good emotional regulation program, what you're going to find is breathing, the first thing. Breathing is a really phenomenal aspect of our being. It is both volitional. That means you don't have to worry, you know, you can sit there and you can breathe. And it's also autonomic. When you go to bed tonight, you're not going to have to worry about breathing. However, breathing also controls heart rate, which is, you know, as you get scared, fearful, stressed, it starts accelerating and triggering a whole cascade of chemical reactions in your body. It also controls the amount of oxygen to your brain. And if you're in fear that triggers from uncertainty, you have cut off oxygen supply to your brain and you have accelerated heart rate and you are in fight flight.
It sounds like maybe meditation or something, which I hear some traders do, works.
Oh, absolutely. I think you need a very applied form of meditation. I would call it mindfulness. You become mindful of the thoughts running in mind, and you begin to recognize that you and your thoughts are not the same. This becomes a very powerful moment where it's like a door opens to you to be able to move to another level. And you begin to be the designer of those thoughts, because you can look at the thoughts and you can back to the beliefs, and then you can confront the beliefs and you can redecide and you can rechange who it is trading.
And so should I then just stop trading for that moment, kind of gather my thoughts and push those bad thoughts aside or those fearful thoughts aside and try to come up with good thoughts about trading?
Well, first of all, it's dangerous to me to push those bad thoughts away. Those are the very ones you need to confront. Those are the very ones you need to confront. Until you confront them, until you reorganize them, they're going to stay in the background of mind, and when in stress, when in worry, they're going to come forward and they're going to take over and hijack your thinking process. All thinking is emotional state dependent. Until you can manage the emotional state, you cannot manage thinking. And if you want to see that, you know, there's the old axiom of 95% of traders lose money. There you go. 95% of dieters gain their weight back. They can do behavioral change, but they can't change at the phenomenal level of literally your core being. And until you get access to that, you can't do it. Breathing, mindfulness, and beginning to access instinctual potentialities within us, this inner strength that lies within us, it's going to be very difficult to win successfully, to get the edge to trade.
Confidence is a huge part of trading. We all want to be confident and have beliefs that we can have success in this market, but how do you achieve that? Our guest today is Rande Howell. He's a trading psychologist. Rande, thanks for being here.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Well, we all have these beliefs about confidence in the markets, and sometimes we have these self-limiting beliefs that we can't do it when we're going through a bad period. How do we get past that to achieve the success we want?
You develop mindfulness. You learn how to observe those beliefs. And you separate yourself from those beliefs and you go, this is what I came to be. This is not who I can be. This is who I came to be. And what you do is you start confronting that. And you do it from what I would call a higher sense of self. You do it from your sense of courage. And courage not like outside the self, but the courage to actually confront inside the self. And you start saying, these are self-limiting patterns. I know where they came from. I'm going to confront them. I'm going to reorganize them. And then you start looking for more powerful elements of the self. Everybody knows a story of when they were down on the line, it was just, everything was there, and they found something inside them. They found a higher gut level sense of power, and they brought it on, and they were able to achieve something that they've never achieved before. That's something that can be developed. It doesn't happen accidentally. It can happen as peak performances.
I know a lot of entrepreneurs have this idea that when they do start to have success, that they don't deserve it, or they haven't worked hard enough for it. And as traders, I know they go through that as well, because they're maybe sitting in a home office and they're not out working a job, and yet they maybe start to have success, and they sabotage themselves because for some reason something tells them that they don't deserve that wealth. How do you get past that?
Well, first of all, is to recognize that there's a saboteur living within you, and that as long as you allow that saboteur to work around in the shadows and you don't actually go observing and looking for him, usually when you do that, you discover that they lose their power. And you begin to say, I know where this came from. I understand that. I'm going to confront it, and I'm going to find a part of myself that actually knows it deserves this. and we're going to confront it.
Now, a lot of people have also said, for a lot of different things, if you want to have success in something, you talk yourself into it. So in the morning, a trader may get up and talk about in the mirror that they're a good trader, they're going to have good discipline today and make good trades. Is that helpful?
Yes, it is, if it's done well. What happens, positive thinking often by itself, practically everybody I know that's practiced positive thinking in trading has not done well until they recognize there's always a voice beneath that positive thinking that's going, oh yeah, we'll show you. And that is the part you cannot ignore. That's the part that has to be confronted. And you find like a warrior-like part of yourself that can confront these areas, not from a sense of like, but no, just the power within the self can confront anything.
And what do you mean by confront? What exactly do you mean by that?
I am not this. I see that you're part of my conversations in my mind, but you're not going to be the one controlling them. I'm bringing forward much more powerful parts of myself to do the trading. I'm bringing impartiality. I'm bringing discipline. I am bringing the courage, and I'm bringing the kind of patience that brings forth trading rather than sitting here thinking in self-limitations and about how things are going to blow up.
Well, we all want to achieve as much success as we can to our potential as traders, but how do you actually achieve that? What are the steps to do that? Our guest is Rande Howell. He's a trading psychologist. He's here to talk to us about that. Rande, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Well, you talk about having a fear limiting your potential as a trader. What do you mean by that?
Oh, wow. First of all, your brain is organized around fear. And what your brain does is once it figures out a way to avoid fear, it locks it into pattern. And that pattern literally becomes the way you see. You don't even have to think. It actually creates the kind of thinking that you do. And what it does, it has no interest at all in your thriving. It has every interest in your surviving. And it has every interest in your surviving in a particular circumstance that you were born into, that it adapted you to. And what happens then, fear goes on automatic, and it automatically limits the possibility that you are. It creates a comfort zone that the moment that you try to get outside of that comfort zone, it will pull you back in. In psychology, we call that a perceptual map.
So all of us have been kind of hardwired growing up and through years before we even began trading that where this has kind of been done in our brains. So how do we get past that as quickly as possible when it's been this way for years?
First of all, you have to quit being mindless about it. And you start going, what is this actually happening? What's going on within me? And again, you go back to what I would say is mindfulness and breathing, where you slow things down by breathing. And in mindfulness, you become observer to all these things going on inside you rather than avoidant to them. And as you do that, first of all, you realize that they are not you. This fear is not you. It is one potentiality of who you could be. And you recognize by just simply pushing through the fear, by emotionally regulating your system, and then your mind, you can push through the fear. And what you do is you develop the faith that there is going to be resources on the other side of that fear door that you're going to be able to develop, and you're going to be able to become a different human being. And I've seen it enough with traders to know it is absolutely possible for anybody.
So for traders that maybe need some help with this, we've not discussed this, but should a trader see a counselor? I mean, should good traders be having therapy to help them along with this?
I wouldn't necessarily call it therapy. I am a licensed professional therapist, and at the same time, most of my work does not involve that. It has more to do with developing potential than trying to put a Band-Aid on something. What you're doing is you're looking for something that already exists within you, and you're developing skills of regulation, emotional regulation, that allow you to get out of the problem that you started with, and then you can open up to a new way of thinking. But reading, a good coach, I haven't found therapists to be particularly effective in this area.
So maybe a mentor who's kind of been through all of this before can help as well?
A well-grounded, emotionally literate mentor would be great.
When you say emotionally literate, what do you mean?
They're stable, they handle pressure well, they have a very good sense of who they are under pressure, and when you're around them, you just see that they're calm, they're impartial, they have a sense of discipline that is unshakable, and they have a courageous ability to confront the self and to create new possibilities for themselves.
Some of this should probably inspire you at the same time.
Yeah.
We've all had instances as traders where we're losing 3 or 4 times in a row. Taking that 5th trade as confidently as we took the first is tough to do, but it's necessary if you believe in your system. How do you do that, though? How do you get to that point? Our guest today is Rande Howell to talk about that. So, Rande, if I had a couple losing trades in a row, I'm really nervous about taking that next trade, yet the market hasn't changed. I know that I should believe in my system. How do I have that confidence?
Well, you develop it. The difference between uncertainty and probability is what has to be changed in a trader's mind, is that if you're looking for certainty in the market, then you don't have the kind of mind that you need to be bringing into trading. If you've developed a probability-based mind, you're recognizing you're always working in probability. And are you going to fall out of probability mindset? Yeah, you're human. And when you see it happening, you're pulling yourself back into probability thinking.
All right, so probability would say that I could have 6 or 7, maybe even 10 losing trades in a row. That would be really hard on somebody's psyche. I know it would be for me. So after 4 in a row, maybe on a day, should I stop? Should I set a limit and say, if I'm losing 4 in a row, I'm just going to stop for the day and wait for tomorrow?
Well, it depends on the trader. And the way I would work with a trader is that most guys I know that lose 4 in a row, they're stopping out. They're gone. They know that they're in a pattern and that they can't reorganize the self back to a highly disciplined mind to go back in, and they're saying, I'm going to have to take a break. Others can just like water off the back.
And is there a method that they got to that point, or is it just their personality? Are they able to do that?
Sometimes there are people who are born right off the shelf with a great mind for trading. They're rare, but I have certainly run into them. Most people have to develop it. And it's something where it's practice and work that I would encourage would be, again, the breathing, self-soothing, and then mindfulness, where in mindfulness you're looking for a particular kind of mind that you can build that allows you to interact with probability and randomness. Because ambiguity is the name of the game, and you have to develop the mind to be able to engage ambiguity, uncertainty, because it's going to want to flip to fear at the moment of uncertainty, at the moment of ambiguity and confusion. That's what the brain's built to do. You have to train yourself for it not to go that way, and it can be done. I see it every day, so I know it can be done.
Well, as traders, it's very easy to take our winners. There's no problem there, but how do we deal with losing trades and still have confidence to go on and trade again? Our guest today is Rande Howell to talk about that. So, Rande, how do you lose well as a trader, if there is such a thing?
It really falls down to recognizing that your plan works and that probability is on your side. And if you've developed the discipline, when you do lose, there's 3 major questions. Is this a method mistake? Is it a psychological mistake, or it's just simply I'm on the wrong side of probability? In either case, if it's a method mistake, you work your plan. You either go back to your plan or you alter plan so that it reflects the reality that you're working in the markets. If it's a psychological mistake, that's the place where you have to work. The mistake is what's telling you that you need to work. And the brain only learns from mistakes. So losing is a way that you're just short-circuiting. You're saying, okay, I have to learn here. And what attitude do you bring to learning? That's the key. If you bring fear to learning, you've got problems.
Most traders start out paper trading with a fake account. It's not real money, and they find they can do really well because they don't have that fear of losing money. The moment they flip the switch and it's the real account, something changes. Is there a way to keep that same mentality that I had in the paper trading account and when I move over to the real money?
They're 2 different animals. Risk is not involved in paper trading. And the key is the moment risk is there, uncertainty is there. And you are going to lose in trading. You are going to win in trading. And it's the discipline that you bring about losing. Losing, if you're doing your plan, if you do your review and there's nothing you would change, that one's just let go. And again, the others, if it's a method mistake, you correct. If it's a psychological mistake, you correct. But without the mistake, you didn't know.
So I think one of the biggest questions is then, you mentioned you let it go. The best traders that I've talked to do just that. They forget about that losing trade immediately and they're moving on to the next one. But how do you know that it's not something that I'm reading the market just incorrectly that day versus I need to change my strategy? So basically, how do you know whether it's a probability problem or a method problem?
Well, that's your review. When you go back to review, you're in a different state of mind than when you were when you're trading. In trading, there is a highly disciplined, highly impartial, very courageous mindset that's required. When you're doing review, it's more of a speculation. You're exploring. It's a totally different kind of thought process, and you're looking to do that. And whether or not you can ever tell, most traders know if they've made a methodology mistake. They know that if their psychology got out of hand, they will be able to see the cue, and they go back through rituals in their psychology to be able to reform their psychology so that their mindset is very, very squared with trading.
Achieving discipline with your trading is very important to your success, and our guest today is Rande Howell to talk about how to do that. So Rande, it all makes us nervous when we're trading. Sometimes we're uncomfortable sometimes trading, but how do we be disciplined and take the losses when we're supposed to and achieve that discipline that we need to be successful?
You develop interior discipline. In the same way that there's fear, there's also discipline. And most people in trading, what they haven't really done is they haven't found the deep reservoir of discipline living within them. And that's what the great traders end up tapping into. They tap it there, and it's like they have someone that rides herd, and it stays in discipline, and it's not allowed to move out.
What does that mean when we say discipline? Is it just a matter of making sure we take our stops when we're supposed to, or is it more than that?
It's an attitude. It's something where you feel discipline. And suddenly out of that discipline, everything changes. Your posture changes, your mindset changes, and suddenly it's not just saying, I'm going to put a stop here and there's my target there. It's actually the authority within the self to maintain a wonderful peak performance state of mind.
A trader once told me that he is a good trader because he's comfortable being uncomfortable. Is that a legitimate statement? Is there something to that?
That's powerful. And the truth is you're always working with uncertainty. And the difference in trading is that when you're a disciplined trader, you have a mindset you bring to trading that's highly disciplined that allows you to work with probability. Whereas most people enter uncertainty from a state of fear, and they've already lost before they begin.
Because obviously we're dealing with an incomplete picture whenever we take a trade. There's no perfect trade. You're always going to have 10 or 15 or 20% as unknown.
Yes.
All right, and then so I guess discipline then means making decisions to trade as well as getting out of a trade is discipline as well.
Yes.
All right, so how do I get better at that? That's the real question.
Well, understand this is something that already lives within you. And it's really more about calming the system down. The very first thing that a trader has to do is they have to get a hold of their emotions. And it's not like you push them away. You can't. The only time you don't have emotions is when you're dead. And so it's really more about how do you manage the emotions you're in. And you allow the emotion to be present. You don't react to it. You breathe through it. You stay with it, and it floats away. And then you take your attention and you start focusing on the things you know are also there. Say like discipline. And you have the uncertainty, but you're no longer in fear. You're in discipline, and you have a plan. And in the discipline, you know that the plan is going to produce probability of winning.
Is there a practice or an exercise? And we practice looking for stock patterns. We practice looking for the right trading strategy. Is there a way to practice the discipline?
Oh gosh, yes. The system I use is through mindfulness. And I teach people how to first calm down. That's with breathing and safe place type of work where you calm the physicality of an emotion down. Then the door of the mind opens and you develop something called an observing self where you step back and you begin to see that you are not having thoughts. Thoughts are having you, but you are not those thoughts. You are not those beliefs. And you become a chooser of what part of the self shows up in the uncertainty.